Check, check. Check, check. All right, sound is good. We will get started here in a second. Sorry about that. I have restarted the Mac. Can't have nice things. Restarted the Mac as well as trying something different this time. There is a software called OBS that I use, and it makes the computer run a little bit hot. And I think it runs a little too fast for it. So we will give this another try. I'm going to keep the other portion up, and hopefully we can get going here. Let's see how this works. Cool. All right, so I'm just going to leave off where the last video started. Again, sorry, you'll have to watch the other live stream to catch up. But I was just talking about how we are at the time in this cycle where we could go one way or the other. All right, if you believe in the 4-year cycle, and it is a 4-year cycle, this is it. And you would believe it's over. And if you believe it's over, you sell, you cut your losses, you wash your hands of it, boom, you're on your way out. However, that is not what I believe. And I am putting my money where my mouth is. I am going along with the data analysis that I've been giving you guys for some time. That's what I'm doing. I'm not telling you what to do. So if my hypothesis, which I do try to back up with data, I get some nice comments about the data-driven hypothesis. If it's wrong, well, I tried. And so we've been talking about how, yes, there seems to be this strict belief around the 4-year cycle, but to me, that's not where the data lines up. Okay. In the last video, we were talking about how we're in phase 2 here and making the comparisons to that of phase 3 and 4 not coming in. And so again, going over to others-Bitcoin, that again, this is all the top altcoins outside the top 10 to remember when this finally went up. Okay, in 2021, it went up after we had the rug pull here. In 2017, alts were bleeding against Bitcoin for this portion of the summer to the end of the year. And then we had alt season. And this also coincided with when Bitcoin topped. Bitcoin topped before here. This is when Bitcoin dominance, by the way, topped as well. And then we had the rotation. Last cycle, same thing. Okay, Bitcoin dominance topped here. But when we take a look at Bitcoin dominance and not just Bitcoin, yes, there was a rotation. There's more of a steady rotation over time. Look where Bitcoin dominance peaked out. It peaked out right here. And that's when we had our rotation. So I don't see anything different right now, that we are waiting for this to turn bullish. Now, I do think others-Bitcoin has to get above this 14% level for us to confirm that. But we can go to Ethereum Bitcoin and see a similar relationship here. Look where Ethereum Bitcoin bottomed here in 2017 when Bitcoin dominance peaked. Now, last cycle, where did Ethereum Bitcoin bottom? Well, it actually bottomed early. It bottomed early here, and Ethereum Bitcoin was slowly turning up, slowly going bullish. And then again, here was the double top of Bitcoin dominance. Ethereum was bleeding against Bitcoin for a while. And then when Bitcoin dominance started going down, That's when Ethereum was on its way. And so right now, Ethereum has been doing better against Bitcoin. Okay, we are in phase two. Now, the concerning thing right now is you see this 382 being tested. Let's get rid of Bitcoin dominance here in the background. Let's add on the moving averages. This 50-week and 382 those are both good areas to look at between being bullish and bearish. I do wonder, just for comparison's sakes, remember where Bitcoin dominance peaked right here? Are we getting another one of these from almost the 0.5 being 0.25 down to the 236 there, 0.16? It would be very similar. 0.25 down to here, and then boom, we might be seeing something like that. Thank you for the comment. Nui Jimsy says others QQQ is also clean. Nice to hear you. Appreciate that. Thank you for that. Let's take a look at it. Others dash QQQ. Let's see. Let's see what this looks like. I'll have to digest this at another time. But yes, that is very clean. I like what you're showing here. This does kind of remind me of the phase 3 indicator or chart that we've been following for a while. By the way, how's phase 3 doing right now? You can see this thing just continues to reject. But going back over to Ethereum Bitcoin, or even Bitcoin dominance overall. Okay, in the first video I mentioned this, if you guys didn't watch it, I said, the question I want to answer, the data I want to look at is to say, was this another 4-year cycle, or could we have further to go? Could the 4-year cycle even still be in play? Could we see a top within December, January, very fast? Okay, we have seen that before. Okay, you can see where Bitcoin dominance peaked out here. This was early mid-December, and then it topped by January. Now, alt season concluded by January 8th, so this was over the course of just a month or so. That was 2017. Okay, so what I would be looking for, if that were to be true, and this is very much a V-shaped recovery, is to see something like that, to see Ethereum Bitcoin come down and then rocket up. Where it comes down, that's anyone's guess, especially if it breaks support right here. I would be taking a look at the 236. But when we throw on other indicators, one of the indicators I think, or a couple of them I really like to look at, one is the MACD. Now, something important to know, it's not just about the MACD flipping green from red. You also want to see momentum on the positive side. Now, momentum is coming down, albeit it is on the positive side. And you can see, where did the MACD flip last time? You can see here, it flipped to the positive side back in March of 2020, COVID times. Okay, then we stay positive. But here, again, that was where Bitcoin dominance topped. Let's take a look at all this together. Okay, it's going to get a little complicated. Here's where Bitcoin dominance topped, and you can see how the MACD came down right here, but we never crossed negative. Overall, the momentum was still staying positive. So that's something I'm watching for. Momentum just flipped positive, okay? Again, I'm looking at these moving averages. Momentum just flipped positive. What about 2017 is too young to show us anything. Let's go to Bitcoin dominance here. We don't need Bitcoin dominance in the background of a Bitcoin dominance chart. Now here you want to see momentum turn negative, of course. This is when we had alt season. Okay, momentum was negative. It flipped up and positive, but overall, again, we're watching these moving averages. They're negative. When it's positive, we tend to see this on the way to the Bitcoin dominance cycle top. Was coming down, flipped positive, but again, overall, you have this downward momentum. Sometimes we do flip over, but again, I'm going with the trend here. What do we have right now? Well, this whole cycle, positive momentum, positive momentum. Now here's what I think's going on, right? This is where I'm putting my money where my mouth is. What I think's going on, I don't care about 4 years, 365 days times 4, anything like that, saying Bitcoin has to top at the same time every time because a certain amount of days. I don't jive with that, okay? I do think this momentum's curling down, Now you can see this is a positive cross. We might get back up here, but overall, I'm looking for the trend to be negative. Now we have a good indicator for that. Of course, we can just go to our classic RSI. We might have to go monthly here. I think monthly sort of proves my point. You can see when the moving average crosses above the yellow, how it gets to this peak. But once it gets under the yellow, okay, the trend is downward. We just recently got under the yellow. We might get back up to it, but overall, we were overbought on the RSI for Bitcoin dominance, and now I'm looking for this trend to come down. I'm having a hard time focusing. We have Mushkashin focusing with when everything bleeds so hard. Yeah, I think that's a mindset thing, Mushkashin. And how do I put this? With the work I do, okay, in the field of psychology, this is going to sound bad, but I'm just going to say it. People's problems are what makes me money. I don't get excited about people having problems and things in their life being more difficult. But when there's problems out there, that's how I make money in the field of psychology. And again, I try to relate that to that of crypto and stocks. When there's problems in the market, those are the times to make money. Those are the times to get in because, again, what's retail doing? Okay, retail's freaking out right now. All the 4-year cyclists are saying, you know what? And maybe they're right. Okay, and if it's just a magical number of days to dictate when the top or the bottom is, okay, credit to them. But I look at these times of fear and I say, you know what? When the data lines up, not just fear, but the moving averages, the other indicators, that is when I'm looking at getting into the market. So my theory here is that we are getting another sort of double top for Bitcoin. And again, watch those momentum on those indicators. I want to take a look at a couple other indicators. Ultimate RSI might be a good one. You see how this is very overbought, more than ever. And the ultimate RSI, it's right at that moving average. But if this thing starts to curl down, that's going to be very good for alts. I don't think people are ready for it. And again, we can just go to a chart such as total 3. Okay, this is a total market cap outside of Bitcoin and ETH divided by Bitcoin. I just want to show you guys, let's remember, what did these do the last couple cycles? This was the 2017 top. I'm on the monthly right now. Let's go to the weekly. Okay, that's the RSI, ultimate RSI on the bottom. This is, okay, sorry about that. I have a scrolly mouse pad. This was the bottom for everything outside of Bitcoin and ETH. Okay, end of October and early December. And then out of nowhere, boom, rotation. And you're asking yourself, what made that rotation? Well, that rotation, again, coincides with the Bitcoin top. Where is Bitcoin's top? Right here. Right here, okay? Right as the rotation flipped. Again, Bitcoin tops early. It tops before the alts do. Okay, because that money's rotating. People have a similar theory with gold, that gold, and we've looked at this chart before, gold divided by Bitcoin. Gold divided by Bitcoin. Okay, is that the one we did, or was it just gold? I think I was just looking at the gold chart. Sorry. Yeah, here we go. Okay. Now, again, look where we had those local tops for gold. This is one of the charts or data points out there. Okay. You see where gold at a local top. Here's where Bitcoin top 2013. Okay. Now you see there's a couple tops here. Okay. Now from this top, that was more of a macro top. Yes, Bitcoin went up quite a bit, but when we had this double peak, that's when Bitcoin exploded. Okay. Same with last cycle. Bitcoin had a local top. I put that gold line there for y'all to see that very plainly. It went down, Bitcoin went up. So that's one of the data points. And we hit a major fib, the 3618. So if we see any bit of a rotation, and I talked about this in another video. I don't want to talk about it to death. It only takes 10% or less of a rotation from gold into Bitcoin. All right. And so there's the gold factor. There's the Fed rate cuts. There's the quantitative tightening, quantitative easing. We have to fix this right now. That way, which color should Bitcoin be? It should be blue, but we're just going to change it up. Bitcoin's going to be yellow, okay? Now, a lot of people talk about this quantitative easing phase, and I think this lulled people into a false sense of, that we have to have quantitative easing in order to get an alt season. We did not have that in 2017, albeit there were less alts, okay? And so there was that rotation, but we did get quantitative easing, a lot of it. Now, the Fed said starting December they're going to do QE. How much QE would we need for an alt season? How long could that take? Could we have a 5-year cycle? Again, the number of days for the cycle to me doesn't matter. I'm following the data. So if your argument is QE, well, the Fed is switching to QE. And last time, that was very positive for Bitcoin and alts eventually, with that extra liquidity coming in. If your argument was gold, we just looked at that. Well, gold very possibly hit a local top. If your argument is interest rates, well, the Fed is cutting rates again. And I should have kept Bitcoin on here. Let's just throw it back on. Okay, the Fed is cutting interest rates again. We'll do yellow once again. And so here was a cut and it went up. But again, this was 2017. Okay, they didn't have to cut that time. They were actually raising rates during that time. Okay, and the Fed, even when they were raising and holding rates, look how high Bitcoin went. So do we need rate cuts for alt season? That's an argument to be made for the quantitative easing rate cut crowd. And again, those are one piece data. I'm trying to look at just the Bitcoin data as well to say, okay, has this truly topped yet? Again, we're at an important point here. The 50-week moving average and the 1618 macro fib. The 4-year cycle is definitely part of the current sell-off. People that believe in it are selling. Mushkashin, I would say you could very much be correct about that. I do wonder, again, here were the moments of extreme fear. I do wonder, being in extreme fear again, if we're going to have something similar as we did in the yen carry trade unwind, the tariff scare, and right now, are we going to hang out here in the low 100Ks over the course of November, or might we continue downward a little bit? Okay. Again, we want to see where the data leads us. As far as the data right now, again, you just saw we have a lot of confluence of different data going on there, but I want to see other indicators such as, the MACD. Again, we're talking about momentum in the MACD. Look how the MACD momentum flipped positive. And again, I'm following the moving averages, as you can see here. It's been on the positive side. So as long as the MACD remains on the positive side, to me, we're still bullish. Yes, this can get negative, but let's say the MACD, we start curling up and candle body structure hangs out at or above 100K, I think we're fine. Let's go back to the last cycles. Now take a look at this. Once the MACD started flirting with the negative area, yes, we had a relief. You could call this bearish divergence if you wanted, but that was the true top, okay? Once the MACD really starts getting under in a big way, that's when it's over. So again, you can match up the moving average, okay, the 50-week and the MACD, but I hope you see the difference here with what the MACD moving average is doing, okay? Let's go to 2017. 2017, I mean, this MACD was just bullish forever. And if you waited for it to flip, I mean, that was mid-January. Alt season was done in here. It was done by January 8th. Other options, 501. Good seeing you, man. Glad you caught live. You want some Algorand TA. Not sure we're going to get into Algorand today, but tell you what, I will put a note in my brain. I do YouTube shorts every day. I will remember to do an Algorand YouTube short for you. So, I'll do the Gary Gensler coin for you. So even this mid-cycle top, see how the MACD flipped for a little bit, got negative, but then truly went positive. Okay, what about March 24? What happened in March? Okay, here was March 24. So the MACD flipped positive way back here. Now, March 24 was pretty high, and we keep revisiting these highs, but I guess an argument to be made of the MACD recently is we do have a divergence to the bearish side. And so hopefully you get another curl up, and maybe that takes us to Q1 next year. Okay, that would be something to watch for. Again, we could go to RSI. I mean, it's very oversold. I'm looking for the RSI to curl up. I think some of these RSIs are better to look at on the monthly to just see, look how long this stayed overbought for. Okay, last cycle, it hit up here twice. This cycle, I mean, there's no doubt about it. The RSI is very oversold, or it's getting very oversold, but hopefully it crosses back to the positive side sometime soon. Going over to Bitcoin dominance, I mean, here's one thing I mentioned briefly in a couple of videos. This is the stochastic RSI, mind you. That's this indicator. Notice how it has this double bottom each time. Again, I'm not saying it has to double bottom all because it did it before. I don't think that's a good way to do analysis. But for each bit of analysis or things that you find on indicators, I try to add those up and say, okay, are we telling a story here that agrees with itself? Or if there's conflicting data, okay, then maybe you're not as married to your theory. But notice how we had this double bottom in the stochastic. I mean, this was heavy bearish divergence, if you want to call it that. And even as is going up, Bitcoin dominance came down. Eventually, that strength lifted Bitcoin dominance. Great. Last cycle, again, double bottom Bitcoin dominance stochastic RSI. We had a bottom here, another peak, and that's probably something we're getting right now is we're going to get another peak. Who knows how high it could go? Okay, maybe it gets back up to 75, maybe 50, doesn't matter. But you can see it's crossing positive. And so Bitcoin dominance more than likely crossing positive. And then this would be where alt season is once it crosses down again. And so if you want to use time as a comparison, which I hate, this was, again, we're just doing 1-to-1. That is about 200 days. Okay, 200 days from now would be June of next year. Okay, could that be the top? Sure. Again, I think, when we take a look at 4-year cycles, that's something we see in the stock market too. We see stocks have somewhat of a 4-year cycle or top in between as well. Okay, 2015, 2018, I mean, it's 3 years. 2019, that would be 4 years from 2015. So even the stock market moves in cycles. But something, again, that I think I have to keep an eye on is the Shiller PE ratio. Okay, this is the dot-com bubble. When we hit 40, we didn't just go straight down. The stock market still went up further. It got very volatile. I wanted to talk about this in the first go-around, but let's go back to this now. Speaking of volatility being vitality, look how volatile the markets were back in the late 99. Here in the mid 20s, sometimes it spiked up high 44. All right, that was probably late 98. Yep, late 98. This would have been similar to a tariff scare that we got this year in April. Okay, but volatility stayed high. And when you add on the S&P, I mean, this volatility was high overall, and the S&P had a lot of chop. Okay, so the S&P right now, it's just been slowly grinding up, but I want to take a look at this on the weekly. Okay, you'd see how this is just grinding up very nicely, and it could be having a local top here at 69.50, and that's fine. I think it could continue higher. But again, I'm comparing this 98 dip in September to that of what we had in April with the Trump tariff scare right here. Okay, you can see very similar structure. Okay, late 98, you see the date right there. I just want to show you how volatile this was. Okay, we knew, I remember being a teenager at this time, people knew there was a bubble. Did it top here in July 99? The stock market went down 12%. No, it didn't. Did it top here? The stock market went down 10%. Nope. Did it top here? Well, actually, yeah. And after that, it went down 13%. But overall, from let's go to early 1999, even though we were very volatile, the stock market went up 25% over the course of the next year or so. And so, again, I'm making that comparison because when we are in a bubble, those cyclical times in the market get thrown off. This is part of my hypothesis. 4-year cycle could be correct. 2026 could suck. The midterm years usually suck. But again, I think we have very unique set of circumstances in the market right now with gold topping, right? Inflation's going to be coming back. QE returning, rate cuts. The Fed isn't cutting by 50 basis points on average, which tells me the economy is not broken yet. When the Fed's cutting by 50, that's when the economy is broken. So again, I'm trying to marry all this data together and show you, could we still be going up, or is the 4-year cycle telling us it's over? And you guys know which camp I'm in. Now, here's a dot-com bubble, and this was when the Fed was cutting by 50 basis points, not 25. They were cutting by a lot because stuff was broken. September 11th, obviously, is back in here. Great financial crisis. You see these rate cuts, how quickly they were going down. Okay, when the Fed's cutting by a lot, something's broken. Okay, this was, of course, COVID. All right, the Fed's been cutting by 25 basis points. That's still fine. If they start cutting by 50, head for the hills. But they don't want to reignite inflation. They have a predicament, a conundrum, if you will, on their hands. And so I take a look at this again. I'm going to keep going back to the late 90s. Very similar rate cut cycle. Fed cut by little bits, 25. They raised, they held. They cut by 25 basis point. Then they had to raise and hold. I mean, they had a hard time with inflationary factors back then too. And that's what the Fed's doing. They're cutting by a little, holding, cutting by a little, holding. So does this AI bubble is the AI bubble over? I don't think so. And because of that, I think we can still be bullish for crypto. Again, if your argument is the 4-year cycle, well, which top do you want to go from? Do you want to go from the alt season top? Because here, 2017, we had a nice top at the end. Bitcoin topped alt season. It was 4 years from here. Cool. Okay. This was 4 years from 2017. However, alt season was here because the Fed had a massive amount of QE. And if you consider where the top was technically in that cycle between the halvings, is really here. So I see all that and I'm like, well, why does there have to be a 4-year cycle? Why can't we just follow the data? And we have a lot of bullish data. And why can't we just consider that Bitcoin, we've been calling this for a while. It's probably headed towards the 50-week moving average. It did. I'm not missing this area as a time to buy. Okay. We're at the 1618. And again, when I say time to buy, I want to have, I'll dollar cost average in, but I do want to see some level of confirmation on the MACD, something to show me it's flipping positive and not just dying. So I'm not going to YOLO ape in, hoping I get the bottom. But we have momentum still positive on Bitcoin. And then we have momentum recently flipping negative on dominance. However, I think the trend is overall still downward as well. Mushkashin says, also new Fed chairman is going to take the position next year and cut even more. I would caution you on that line of thinking just because it is a committee decision. And even though Powell takes the heat for it, they still decide together. There's a group of like 30 to 50 guys or something like that. There's just no way the standard 4-year cycle is happening. Too many moving parts and variables at this time. Yeah, I agree with you. Again, I'm going to, let me try to wrap a bow on it. We're clearly in phase 2, and we're probably having a very similar move that we did last time into the Bitcoin dominance peak. Again, let me take these off, throw on Bitcoin dominance. I don't think there's enough to say, with all the metrics of what we followed the last couple times. I mean, look at where Ethereum Bitcoin was here. Bitcoin dominance had a low, and then it went higher. Ethereum Bitcoin went from near 0.24 to the 236. We're kind of doing the same thing. Bitcoin dominance went low. Ethereum Bitcoin went to 0.25. And as Bitcoin dominance does a double top, maybe it's coming back down to the 236 again. And then boom. Is that what's happening yet again? I think there's reasons to look at this and say, you know what? Like, throw time out the window, okay? It's 400 blah blah days from bottom to top, or from top to top, or from having the top. Throw all that out the window. When you just compare data, how are we not right here? ETH Bitcoin peaking with the local low and Bitcoin dominance double tests, or does a double top and retests the former top from before. Okay, I think we're doing something similar. And we'll know if this is true or not. If Bitcoin holds some level of support here, that has to happen. And then we have to see phase 3 is starting to come in sometime soon. And phase 3 is in a massive consolidation. Let's take off Bitcoin dominance here. Well, we can keep it on for a minute. Phase 3, okay, this is all the large cap altcoins. You see where Bitcoin dominance bottoms, and there's where phase 3, the large caps, everything, XRP, Cardano, Tron, all those in the top 10. Okay, this is where Bitcoin dominance bottom. You see where phase 3 is. Okay, but something concerning to me, this would be a bearish case scenario. Okay, I just got to say it. We're in a massive wedge here, higher lows, lower highs, and Bitcoin dominance going up. Here's the one thing that's different. Okay, we have to break out of this wedge to move up and say, yes, we are getting a phase 3 again, because this would be my bearish take, that all these other tops that we've had have sort of been alt season broken up over time. I don't believe that, but if you're a 4-year cyclist, that would be your argument, that the alt season got broken up over the course of the cycle and it had tops along this massive wedge. Okay, again, I think momentum is turning negative on the Bitcoin dominance, and so that's what I'm looking for right here, is Bitcoin dominance double top, large caps bottom down here, and then Bitcoin dominance comes down, and hopefully we break out of this massive wedge, and that'll be a very nice alt season. And would that not fit perfectly? Let's turn on our bullish hats for a little bit, inject some hopium into our veins. Would that not fit in with an AI bubble euphoric top? Usually these cycles top with euphoria. Would that not make sense to see a massive 8-year wedge break out? You get NVIDIA going to 250, Schiller P going to the 45s, the S&P going to 7.5, 8K. I think that could all fit together, but it's going to be volatile. It's going to be choppy along the way. And I hope you guys are ready. I think there's nothing to say the data hasn't shown us otherwise. This was 2017. I'm battle hardened by all this, and this is what I believe in. So let's see. Mushkashin says, I think I'm going to buy myself some Sol tonight. So let's take a quick Solana. So yeah, just to kind of cap this all off, could the cycle be over? I think we have to see what happens with Bitcoin dominance. I am not ready to say one way or the other. Solana, yeah, maybe I'll do videos for Algo and Solana tomorrow, some YouTube shorts. But breaking ascending channels, man. I like descending channels, but yeah, I'll have to look at this one more. But yeah, I'd be watching Solana, not just at 153, but Solana here at 121. That would be an area I'd be waiting to be patient for. Arctic Kevin, bro, the floor has dropped on us. I hope this is the fourth wave before the final top. Kevin, you missed quite a bit. Again, I think there's something to be said, or that I kind of agree with what you're saying, that we're probably getting a rotation into alts a little bit. Okay, this is what's happening. Bitcoin dominance going up. Right now, Bitcoin's going down. Pretty soon, what I'm hoping for, what I think the data is showing us, is that Bitcoin could stay sideways for a bit. But what this all means, guys, is altcoins go down. And we can take a look at total 3. And I mean, we've been waiting for this area. And once I think total 3 is a good, obviously every altcoin kind of acts on its own. But when we see total 3 start to get some positive momentum back, okay, right now it's negative. Now it's still on the positive side, but once this starts to flip up, then I'd say, okay, at least we have some confirmation. So yeah, alts are going to continue to drop as Bitcoin dominance does its thing, as Bitcoin hopefully goes lateral for a bit. Okay, hopefully we go from here to here. But then once Bitcoin dominance tops, okay, it has to go down. And as it's going down, if we see Bitcoin price top and then start to go down, that's when we get alt season, right? That's when we've had alt season. It's when Bitcoin tops and it's too expensive to keep buying. I don't believe that Bitcoin has topped this cycle. I'm still looking for 150K plus. I am still looking for 150K plus. Everything I have is bleeding. Crypto and stocks, I'm hurting. Sorry to hear that, Kevin. Again, so I want you to try to, if you will, take a step outside yourself, take some deep breaths, and remember that these are the times when our emotions are getting the best of us. These are the times that retail capitulates when they sell. Smart money likes buying when there's extreme fear. There's lots of data to show that, macro data. We have extreme fear right now. Okay, so we don't have confirmation yet, but we have extreme fear. Now we need to see structure hold, and we need to see our indicators start to flip to the positive side. So extreme fear, quantitative easing coming back, rate cuts, gold maybe topping. There's a lot of bullish catalysts. The government, maybe if they open up in a few weeks, that might coincide with a local bottom as well. I can't sell. I'm going to hold to zero. I'm right there with you. I'll hold to zero as well. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for coming along. Wanted to do a video / live stream, talk about the different phases past the alt season and try to answer the question as best I can. Is the cycle over? Did we have another 4-year cycle? And I think, hopefully, I answered pretty well that, or backed it up with the data to show that, we need to see what happens with Bitcoin dominance and ETH Bitcoin. That if Bitcoin dominance is doing a double top, and again, the momentum is trending downwards for Bitcoin dominance, that eventually when that momentum takes it down, what is going to happen? I think, again, for me, my hypothesis, and I could be wrong, and if so, I'm not going to make any money off it. I already did off Bitcoin mining stocks, but I'm not going to make any extra money off my altcoins. But again, if you watch my Bitcoin mining stock videos, you see how these top with Bitcoin. Mining stocks aren't falling off a cliff. Okay, so if mining stocks are still kind of popping off here and there, that's another indicator to me saying, you know what, maybe Bitcoin still has further up to go, and mining stocks are front running it. Again, mining stocks typically top with Bitcoin. Okay. I'm with you, bro. Holding so hard. Yeah. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Hang in there, go for a walk, meditate, do the things you need to do. And again, these are the opportunities to look for value in the market. Okay. Look for confirmation. I go over that in my videos, and I'll try to do Solana and Algo videos for a couple of you guys tomorrow. Look for those YouTube shorts. Thanks so much for watching. Have a wonderful day. Take care.